My friends, I come before you today with a message that has been burning within my spirit, a revelation so urgent, so timely, that I can no longer keep silent. What I am about to share with you did not come easily. For months, I have wrestled with this burden, seeking confirmation, waiting for the appointed time of release. That time is now. We stand at a prophetic crossroads unlike any in human history. The convergence of ancient timelines, celestial signs, and global events has created what the prophets of old would recognize as the threshold of divine intervention. And at the center of this convergence is a specific time frame that has been impressed upon my spirit with undeniable clarity. May 2025. Let me be clear, I do not speak of the exact day or hour of the Messiah's return, for no man knows that day. But throughout history, the Almighty has always warned his people before significant events, before divine appointments that would forever alter the course of human affairs. Just as ancient watchmen stood on city walls to announce approaching danger or deliverance, so now certain individuals are being positioned as prophetic voices for this critical hour. May 2025 marks the culmination of multiple prophetic cycles that have been hidden in plain sight for those with eyes to see. These are not arbitrary dates or speculative timeframes, but precise markers established in the ancient patterns that have governed divine interventions throughout history. First, there is the Jubilee pattern, the system of sevens and 50s that has tracked redemptive history since ancient times. May 2025 completes a critical Jubilee cycle that began decades ago. The mathematical precision is undeniable for those who have studied these patterns. Second, there are the celestial signs, the positioning of heavenly bodies that have historically served as heaven's timepiece. The specific alignment that occurs in May 2025 has happened only once before in recorded history, and it preceded a profound shift in spiritual authority on the earth. Third, there is the convergence of global conditions that the ancient prophets described, conditions that would characterize the final generation before the great culmination of history. Never before have all these conditions existed simultaneously as they do now. What then will happen in May 2025? I have been shown three specific developments that will unfold in rapid succession. First, there will come a sudden shaking of systems that humanity has trusted for security and stability. Financial structures that have appeared unassailable will reveal their fragility. Technological networks that have seemed omnipresent will demonstrate unexpected vulnerabilities. Political alliances long taken for granted will fracture along unexpected fault lines. This shaking serves a divine purpose to expose what is temporary so that what is eternal can be recognized. Second, there will emerge an unprecedented polarization of humanity around fundamental questions of truth and allegiance. The comfortable middle ground where many have camped, maintaining a form of spirituality while compromising with the systems of this age, will suddenly vanish. Each person will be compelled by circumstances to declare their ultimate loyalty. This polarization is not arbitrary, but serves to reveal what has remained hidden in human hearts. Third, and most significantly, there will be released upon the faithful remnant an outpouring of spiritual authority and discernment that defies natural explanation. Those who have remained faithful through the time of testing, who have not compromised their convictions for comfort or acceptance, will experience an activation of spiritual gifts and authority that will equip them for their role in the final harvest. This last development, this spiritual awakening among the remnant, represents the true purpose behind the May 2025 divine appointment. Throughout history, before every major transition in the divine narrative, there has come a supernatural equipping of those chosen to navigate that transition. Before the Exodus, Moses encountered the burning bush. Before the conquest of the Promised Land, Joshua met the heavenly captain. Before the ministry of Messiah, John emerged from the wilderness with prophetic authority. What comes in May 2025 follows this pattern, but exceeds previous outpourings in both scope and intensity. It represents not merely an enhancement of existing spiritual capacities, but an entirely new dimension of connection between heaven and earth, a merging of realms that the prophets glimpsed but could not fully articulate. Who will experience this awakening? Not those who merely profess faith with their lips while their hearts remain distant. Not those who have used religion for personal advancement or comfort. Not those who have compromised truth for acceptance. The awakening of May 2025 is reserved for the remnant. Those who have maintained authentic devotion despite increasing pressure to conform. Those who have walked the narrow path when broader roads beckoned. Those who have valued truth above convenience. The preparation for this divine appointment has already begun. Even now, those destined to carry this mantle of authority are being subjected to intensified refining, circumstances that test devotion, that expose hidden compromise, that strengthen spiritual muscles through resistance. These challenges are not punishment, but preparation, not rejection, but precisely targeted development. How then should we prepare for what comes in May 2025? First, through rigorous self-examination, honest assessment of where our ultimate trust lies, where compromise has crept in, where comfort has trumped conviction. The awakening requires vessels that can contain it without fracturing. Only those who have allowed themselves to be strengthened through testing will be able to carry what is coming. Second, we must prepare through separation. Not physical isolation from the world, but spiritual distinction from its values and assumptions. The remnant has always been defined not by withdrawal, but by difference. Maintaining presence in the world while refusing assimilation to its patterns. This separation becomes increasingly critical as May 2025 approaches. Third, we must prepare through authentic community with like-minded believers who reinforce rather than undermine spiritual vigilance. In the pressure of these times, isolation makes individuals vulnerable to deception and discouragement. The awakening of May 2025 will flow primarily through networks of believers who have learned to function as unified bodies rather than disconnected individuals. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, we must prepare through the recovery of ancient spiritual disciplines that have sustained believers through previous periods of upheaval. Disciplines of solitude, fasting, contemplative prayer, and immersion in eternal truth. These practices are not religious formalities, but technologies of spiritual formation that create internal capacity for what is coming. Let me address potential misunderstandings about this prophetic message. This is not a call to abandon normal life or responsibilities. The faithful throughout history have always remained engaged in daily activities, even as they prepared for divine interventions. Continue your work, maintain your families and communities, but do so with heightened spiritual awareness. This is not an invitation to fear, but to focused preparation. Throughout Scripture, divine warnings were always given, not to create panic, but to position the faithful for both protection and purpose. May 2025 brings both challenge and opportunity, threat to systems built on temporal foundations, but vindication for those anchored in eternal truth. This is not a prediction of the exact return of Messiah, but rather of a significant preparatory event, a spiritual positioning of the remnant for their role in the final chapter of this age. The awakening of May 2025 serves as divine certification of those who will function with unusual authority in the increasingly turbulent period that precedes the ultimate return. The specificity of this time frame, May 2025, is not arbitrary. It connects to ancient Hebrew feast cycles, to astronomical alignments visible only once in millennia, to mathematical patterns encoded in prophetic literature that become decipherable only as their fulfillment approaches. The precision serves as authentication of the message for those with discernment to recognize heaven's signature. Friends, I deliver this message not with fear but with solemn hope. What comes in May 2025 represents not the end but a new beginning, not destruction but transformation, not abandonment but engagement at a deeper level than most have dared to imagine possible. History has always moved according to divine appointments, moments when heaven's timeline intersects human experience with unmistakable clarity. May 2025 represents such an appointment, a moment when what has been prophesied for generations begins tangible fulfillment, when ancient promises find contemporary expression, when the faithful remnant receives supernatural certification for their end-time assignment. The hour is late. Ordinary time is giving way to prophetic time. The significance of May 2025 will be recognized by some and dismissed by others, but its reality remains unaffected by human opinion. The awakening comes whether humanity is prepared or not. For those who have maintained their spiritual vigilance, who have not compromised eternal truth for temporary comfort, who have cultivated capacity for authentic spiritual perception, May 2025 brings not fear but vindication, not confusion but clarity, not weakness but supernatural empowerment. The countdown has begun. The final pieces are moving into position. The divine appointment approaches. May 2025 stands as heaven's marker for the remnant. The moment when ordinary believers become extraordinary ambassadors, when hidden faithfulness receives public authentication, when the final chapter of this age begins in earnest. Prepare your hearts, strengthen your spirits, align with eternal purposes. May 2025 comes with both judgment and blessing, both revelation and concealment, both ending and beginning. Those who have positioned themselves through authentic devotion will not merely survive what is coming, they will thrive as carriers of heaven's final message to a world desperately in need of truth. The message has been delivered, the warning has been issued, the promise has been declared. May 2025 approaches. Heaven has spoken.